All right. Hello, inventors and entrepreneurs. My name is Courtney Laskowich. I am the managing director here at Inventors Groups of America, and welcome to Inventors Online. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today for a very special Inventors Online. Is anyone new here? If so, go ahead and flash your hands in front of the screen and look at you all. You guys, it looks like the newbies are here in the front row seats for today. Wonderful. Welcome, everyone. For those of you who are not familiar with what IGA is and who we are all about, IGA was founded in 2017 by Stephen Key and Andrew Krauss to teach individuals how to best commercialize their product ideas, as well as strengthen and support inventor groups throughout the nation. We have a directory of local and regional inventors groups on our website whom we meet with every single month. And if you are located near one, we highly encourage you to join. Now, for now, we would love to hear your name and what state or country you are from. So go on over right now into the chat and go ahead and type that in. Please let us know. Of course, please do not disclose anything that is confidential and not already publicly available. Our meeting is being recorded and will be harnessed on our website and YouTube channel soon after. Now, we're going to be screen sharing a little bit here. When we do so, feel free to go into gallery or speaker side-by-side mode at the top right-hand corner of your Zoom panel and use the slider to change the size of both screens. Now that all of that is out of the way, have you ever wanted to create a character? What about designing and licensing characters that produce multi-billion-dollar empires? Now, the first episode of Bob the Builder was released in 1998. I still have the beloved Can We Fix It song personally still in my head from my childhood. From the gorgeous production of their stop motion animation original show to their transformation into CGI, those talking construction vehicles, along with Bob and Wendy, fell into our hearts and became a $10 billion franchise over its lifespan. Now, you or your older kids might have grown up with Bob the Builder, but this generation is growing up with a young boy named Ryder who leads a team of search and rescue dogs, each with a special skill set, who go on missions together, the PAW Patrol. Now, PAW Patrol has 10 series and 2 features plus millions in royalties every year for Chapman. That's a lot of royalties. PAW Patrol has a true global phenomenon, with his puppies found on everything from cereal boxes to bathing suits and backpacks. And it all started with the drawing he made back in 2011. Tonight, we are absolutely honored and humbled to speak with the PAW Patrol and Bob the Builder creator himself and hear a bit about his magic in bringing characters to life. Let me now introduce the one and only VIP guest speaker and Ultimate Kids TV veteran, Keith Chapman.
Thanks, Courtney, and hello, everybody. So pleased you could make it tonight. Well, it's my evening here in Monaco, but I suppose it's your morning. Thrilled to be a guest here with Courtney and Stephen, and hoping I can answer any questions and give you any advice I can. And I'll just tell you the story of how they were all created, and these 2 shows and other shows, and what I'm up to now as well. So yeah, I mean, please give me some questions and I'll happily answer them.
All right, thank you very much. First of all, Keith, thank you for coming on and helping us entrepreneurs and inventors and creators with our own journey. So thank you for your time, and that's very important for us to learn from you. Why I'm so excited about this webinar is that we all, no matter if we have a product or a service or an idea, how do you get that idea out of your head, and how do you pitch that idea? How do you find the big benefit of it, that idea? How do you present it to a company? And how do you work within that company to get to commercialize your dreams? And that's what Keith has done in one particular field, but I think the the advice he's going to give today, you can apply to anything that you have. And because looking at his history and some of the questions we're going to ask, we're going to unfold this mystery of how to pitch, how to find the big benefit, and how to bring it all together to create some really wonderful things, but also to share it with the world. And that's what Keith has done. So, Courtney, let's jump in. We've got a lot of questions and I'm excited about it. So thank you very much. And I'll let you give the first couple questions.
Wonderful. All right, let's go ahead and get started here. My first question is, Keith, what age did you start to draw cartoons?
Well, from a very young age. That was the only thing I was any good at. I was drawing cartoons from sort of, the age of 2 or 3. Usually on my dad's wall, which he wasn't very happy with. And then I progressed when I was at school. I was drawing cartoons and caricatures of the teachers. So I was always getting kicked out of class and made to stand out in the hallway. So, I wasn't the best academic student, but I knew from a very early age what I was going to be. I wanted to be a cartoonist or in some way associated with TV or film. I kind of had this thing, I wanted to work for Disney at some point, and I still haven't actually cracked that one yet, but I'm hoping to in the near future. So yeah, Disney was always the company that I always looked up to. I saw all their early movies and was fascinated by the whole thing. All the Hanna-Barbera stuff was brilliant. Like the Flintstones and Tom and Jerry and all that kind of stuff. And then we had some brilliant, British animators. There was Jerry Anderson, the wonderful Jerry Anderson, who made this incredible puppet shows like Thunderbirds and Stingray and Captain Scarlet. And that just completely thrilled me. I loved all that stuff. So anything creative like that, I was really into. I kind of, when I went to art college, I left after 4 years with a sort of degree in advertising and illustration. So I was doing my kind of cartoons on the sideline, but I kind of took a job in advertising. So I was an art director working with a writer. Back in those days, you could have 2 guys working together, cracking ideas. But it was brilliant fun. It was back in the golden years of advertising, where you could literally spend all afternoon down the pub with a sketch pad and a magic marker. And as long as you came up with the ideas, the creative director was fine. So I was kind of just cracking out ideas literally on a daily basis. And I'm sure that had something to do with the way I work now, in terms of, in advertising, you have to isolate, you have to find the USP of a product, the unique selling proposition, the big idea. What is the big idea? So, we scribble up lots of ideas and we'd go in and pitch to the client, and knowing that we had one absolute massive idea amongst say 6 or 12 ideas. And that was the way we worked in advertising, sort of steering the client towards the big one. And that thinking, I think I've taken into what I do now. I'm always searching for something original, or, something's not been done before. I know that's hard, but I think it kind of helps then when you go and pitch it to the broadcasters. You've got to try and stand out amongst thousands of shows all being pitched from all these production companies.
I want to ask you a question about that, because what's really interesting, when you're working with the ad agency, you had to come up with a lot of ideas, right? Did it force you to create like daily? And how did you do that?
I just have that kind of mind that doesn't stop thinking of ideas, and it drives people crazy who I live with. And, because I'm always dreaming up ideas in my sleep and during dinners, and people get very bored of me saying, what do you think of this? What do you think of this? So it's just the way my mind works. I just they just keep popping into my head. So it kind of was an easy thing for me to do, advertising, because it was a natural thing. It really suited me. coming up with ideas. And I think when I eventually got, I was lucky enough to get a job at Jim Henson, working for Jim Henson, and working with all these amazingly talented people at their London base. In Hampstead, they had the TV side, making the Muppets and Muppet Babies and Fraggle Rock. And then they had, just around the corner, you had the Creature Workshop, making all these incredible creatures for, the Labyrinth or the Dark Crystal, all their movie stuff. So I was kind of flitting between the two. And I just thought, wow, this is kind of almost like what I've always wanted to do. And that I also learned how to take something and turn it into a brand, rather than just thinking of it as a sort of a TV show. I wanted to do more than that. I wanted to turn it into a global brand that was famous, like Jim's Kermit was famous. The Muppets were so famous, and all of Disney stuff was just so famous. I just wanted to do stuff that became global brands. So I started thinking up ideas, and Bob the Builder was one of my first. It was actually going to work in London, seeing a JCB digger digging up the road, and just suddenly looking at this digger and thinking, well, if I put a couple of eyes on him and made him speak, that would be quite an interesting character. So I quickly doodled it down and went on the tube and got to work. Supposed to be doing my advertising work, but I was actually secretly, creating characters, and added, some friends, some construction friends, like steamrollers and cement mixers and dump trucks. And I just suddenly thought, well, this could be quite a good idea, because, construction is probably the biggest industry in the world, and everywhere you go, kids can see diggers on the streets and their dad painting the walls or making a patio out the back. It's part of our lives, construction. I just thought, well, if you stuck a small child in a room and put some bricks in front of it, it'll start putting the bricks on top of each other. It's almost like a genetic thing to construct things. Humans just do that. So I just thought, well, why hasn't anybody done a construction idea? So I worked on it and added Bob as a human character, as the father figure, to look after these sort of kids who were slightly getting in trouble and out of control. And he had to sort of rein them in and get the job done. Can we fix it? Yes, we can. And took it into a friend of mine I used to work with at Jim Henson, a guy called Peter Orton, who had started up a company called Hit Entertainment, who became a huge company. They picked up Bob immediately.
Keith? I mean, how did you pitch the story?
So I what I do is I do it a very simple way. I work up what's called a treatment or a Bible. I type, in a Word document, I type up the world, the characters, how it works. I add some drawings. With Bob, I did quite a few drawings actually. And it was that one drawing on the front cover actually that sold it, because one picture can tell 1,000 words. And it was really Bob holding onto that side, that classic picture of Bob hanging onto the side of a small JCB. So I made the machines smaller and more preschoolish in terms of size ratio. And they were like buddies, Scoop and Bob were like buddies. And then I thought, right, I need some female characters in there. So added Wendy to it. And then, they picked it up, or they saw it on the table. I actually pitched about 4 or 5 ideas, but Bob was by far the strongest. And they went for it and optioned it literally there in the room. And then they then spent all their money, developing it, getting writers to write some scripts and designers on board and animation studios to do trailers.
Can you talk about, just for a minute, because we all have these ideas, we all imagine you're in this room.
Yeah.
Got the drawings and you think you've got your best and you got a story. Are you telling the story yourself?
Yes, I'm telling the story as a sort of, because I'd been reading it to my kids. I had 3 boys, so when they were born, I was kind of every night, reading them stories or telling them make up stories, and I'd say, right, what do you want tonight? You can have, and I'd reel off all these characters that I'd created, and they usually said Bob the Builder, so I knew Bob was a good one. And so I kind of, it was an easy thing to talk about in a room to people. I could just give them a sort of sample, a very quick sample episodic idea to show how it worked. And it was very simple, with Bob.
Is there a unique selling proposition? Did you come up with that one-line benefit? I mean, how did you bring it all together in one sentence, or could you?
Well, I can't remember what I put down for the one sentence, but you're right. I do try and find one sentence for my shows. I think it was literally, can he fix it? Yes, he can. It was something like that, which was then tweaked and used for the strapline. And I believe Obama used it as his campaign slogan when he was running for president. So he owes me some royalties somewhere, but anyway. So yeah, try and find that one-liner, that hook, which describes the show. And it was really about teamwork, and if you all work together to get the job done, there's some nice messages in there for kids to take away, because in preschool there kind of has to be that. For the broadcasters, they like all that. You've got to sort of tick a lot of boxes and teach kids good things.
You had mentioned that you can climb into a young person's mind. I've read that. How do you do that? I mean, do you just
it helps if you personally haven't actually matured very much. I've still got the mind of a youngster, but having had kids, you become a bit of an expert in young kids, because you only by having and seeing kids and sort of playing with them and seeing the way their minds work, that really kind of helps you become pretty good at knowing what kids want. And funnily enough, so I had 3 boys, so a lot of my stuff was boy related. Back then, although I did do a show called Fifi and the Flower Tots, which you can see on YouTube, which actually was a really good show. And I specifically created that because lots of mums used to say to me, Bob's great, but I've got daughters, and why don't you do something for girls? And I just sort of thought, well, maybe I wonder if I could do something for girls. I haven't thought about that. And I created Fifi and the Flower Tots, which is about a little forget-me-not flower who lives in this miniature world, which is really cute. And again, that was stop frame. So the original Bob was stop frame, which was really beautifully done up in Manchester at the studios, the old Cosgrove Hall studios. And it had a tangibility about it. It felt quite toyetic. It felt like you could reach in and play with it as a toy. So that kind of helped the on-shelf experience for kids.
Did you understand play patterns? I mean, you mentioned that you had young boys and you saw them play, but there's these play patterns in the toy industry, and construction sets and building things is a perfect play pattern. Were you aware of that when you created?
Yeah, well, that's what I was trying to explain. I mean, I looked around and I thought, well, what's out there at the moment? Thomas the Tank Engine's out there and it's doing fortunes, but okay, it's a train show and kids love trains, but it's sort of set. It was written back in the 40s, and the look of it, the style of it was quite old and sort of steam trainish, and kids don't really see steam trains going around now, but it was still hugely popular, one of the most popular British preschool shows. And I just thought, well, surely a construction concept with this building play pattern can be as big as, why not? Why can't it be as big as Thomas? And that's how I pitched it as well to hit. And they kind of looked at me and said, well, yeah, you'll be lucky, you know, to get anywhere near that. But I think that it did actually overtook Thomas for a couple of years in its height when it was really, really going. Back in the day, it actually came out in, I think it could have been 98. I kind of, in my mind, it was 99, but Courtney might be right. It might have been 98. It came out on BBC. And it's now, so that would make it about 23, 24 years old, which is amazing, really. But, you know, I have to say that Hit Entertainment subsequently sold the brand, sold themselves to Mattel Toys, Mattel being the biggest toy company in the world, as you know. They own Bob now, and amongst lots of other brands. And they refreshed it in 2015 with this CG version. But I have to say, it's just not done very well. They haven't done a great job on it. And they kind of threw the baby out with the bathwater. They threw this, you know, multi-billion-dollar franchise out and completely started afresh with new designs, new look Bob. Didn't look anything like the old Bob. Looked much more human and so not very toyetic. You know, kids are just not going to buy into a human-looking Bob. And that's something to bear in mind as well. That, you know, kids, preschoolers especially, it needs to be much more rounded in its aesthetic. You want to be looking at proportions like a preschooler looks like, with a big head, small body. You don't want to be doing big Marvel type stretched human type stuff for preschoolers. That comes later when they get into the Marvel characters.
Let's talk about Paw Patrol for just a minute, because Bob the Builder was more towards boys. You mentioned that, but Paw Patrol, which is a huge international hit, boys love it, but girls love it too.
Yes, yeah, that's true. So the way Paw Patrol came at me, which was slightly different from normal. Normally, I would sit here with a blank sheet of paper and my laptop and just create shows from my head. But this particular one came to me from friends at Spin Master who I'd known for some years. And they'd always said, you know, one day we'd really like to work with you and do something. They nearly bought into Fifi and the Flower Tots, but we couldn't quite get a deal that worked. I really wanted to do the deal, but my partners found it a little bit too onerous. So we didn't go with them, which I thought was a mistake. But anyway, you know, I didn't get the chance to work with them on that. And then they remembered me. And then when they had this brief for a boys action adventure show with emergency vehicles, and it was based on Spin Master's toy technology. So this came from toy technology, which had been developed with Bakugan, the Bakugan property, which was all magnets. When the magnets touch each other, it all spring loads and it turns into something. So those little balls, it was a game. They rolled it. When it landed on the magnetic board, the circle would open and turn into a Bakugan, you know, sort of character, which was fantastic toy technology. They took that a stage further, and they wanted something where you put something, a character on top of a box. Let's say that box would elongate and shoot across the table as a police car or a fire engine. So they'd made a video of this technology with two little boys playing with this stuff, and sent it to me. It was a human character of a policeman with a big handlebar moustache. He looked like somebody out of the Village People. And you put this policeman on top of this box, and it was all painted up like a police car, and it kind of just opened up and just shot across the table. It was really quite cool. And they said, right, here's the brief. You need to create a show, you know, with emergency vehicles, but it needs to have this transforming element in the show.
Were they doing shows? I mean, they're known as a
No, they'd only developed this technology in-house. They were wondering whether to release it as a toy, or they were wondering whether they should actually build it into a TV show, like they'd done with Bakugan, and turn it into a big global successful TV show where they could actually make more money, because then they could sell licenses to lots of licensees, you know, like the whole raft of thousands of different categories like clothing and birthday cakes and whatever. So that's what they decided to do. Now, I didn't realize at the time that when they'd sent it to me, I thought they were just coming to me. You know, I was a little bit naive, and I cracked on with an idea. I started thinking, well, I don't really want humans necessarily as the heroes. I'd rather have an animal, make it a bit more preschool. And also I wanted it to appeal to girls as well as boys. So I thought, right, what's probably the most popular animal in the world? What's the most popular pet? And of course it had to be puppies or kittens, one of the two. So I went for puppies. But I also like puppies because this is where the big idea came, and it's a very simple idea, but in advertising it's a big idea. It's basically rescue puppies. You know, a little boy has got some rescue puppies that he's reared, and he turns them into rescue dogs that can go and rescue animals or humans in any scenario, with their dog kennels, which turn into their vehicles. So that was a very simple concept. But it's the sort of concept that actually you can apply any situation to. You can have them rescue a little owl, which they did in the early days in some of the early episodes, more domestic type, softer episodes, or they could get invited by the President of the United States to go and help, you know, rescue their pet dog who's gone missing somewhere in China or something. I don't know. You could just make up anything that they could go on and get this incredible technology.
Keith, there's a few questions a lot of us have when we're first starting out. It sounds like you had a relationship with Spin Master because they sent you their wish list. I mean, was that common, or can you ask for it? What do you think about that?
Well, that, as I say, that was a one-off. I hadn't had that before. I hadn't actually worked to a brief to try and come up with a concept. And of course, I pitched the idea, and I subsequently found out that actually it had gone out to about 10 different creative companies around the world, and it was a pitch situation. And of course, then I found out, I got down to the final two, and apparently they all voted for it around the table. It could have been the other concept, I think, was something to do with outer space, which came from New Zealand. They're very good friends of mine down at the Weta Studios.
So what did you pitch to them again? Did you do a deck? Were you there in person? Did you talk about the big story? Because there's a one-line benefit statement that's really easy to understand here. How did you pitch it?
So I had to send it in remotely on this one. I couldn't go there, and I did it remotely as a treatment, but with drawings, sketches to show, you know, how it kind of, the idea worked, how the characters could, you know, jump onto their kennels, which then turned into these machines. A
storyboard? It's like a storyboard?
Not a story. I didn't go that far. It was more some sketches which accompanied the treatment, if you like. So a booklet. I sent them that, and then of course went through it remotely with them over the phone. I don't think Zoom was around then. I can't remember. This was back in 2010. It doesn't sound that far long ago, but I don't think we had Zoom back then. But anyway, they really got it, and apparently they voted for mine because it had the pups, because it had the nurturing aspect for girls, and it had the big action transforming stuff, high tech stuff for boys. So both audiences were getting something out of it.
There's a quick question I have, and maybe because of your experience with Jim Henson and Bob the Builder, did you see the vision of where this was going to go? And when that licensing agreement came over, which are really wonderful things, did it spell out that this was going to be live shows, TVs, books?
Yeah, that's all built into your option agreement. So basically, when a company wants to option your concept, you get into what's called an option agreement, and in that option agreement, they would cover all the aspects of going forward that you can expect. So when I do my model, usually I assign all rights to my concepts to the company. So as you were saying earlier about how successful they were, I was going to jump in and say, yeah, if only I owned them, because obviously they're owned by other companies, and they're making the huge money. Spin Master have just done incredibly well with Paw Patrol. I think all the guys there are multi-billionaires. But good luck to them, because they've actually put their money on the table and really got behind it. So they deserve all the success. And also, I should say that, I'm just part of a huge team of people. I'm the first guy, I suppose, the one that creates the spark. But once that goes into this kind of production world, it then gets taken over by so many people, so many hundreds of talented people, that all really need the credit for these shows. In the case of Paw Patrol, Guru Animation in Toronto did such an incredible job bringing those pups to life the way they did. It was almost a bit of a throwback to the old Disney drawing skills, the way they did those pups and portrayed them and got them to look really lovable. They did a phenomenal job. And also Spin Master production team, they started a production company, entertainment company within Spin Master based on Paw Patrol. That was their first show.
Talk a little bit about the licensing agreement, but then we're going to go in another direction real quick. So this licensing agreement covers a lot of things, sub-licensing, and
it covers everything, even theatrical, movies, live stage shows, any source of income that comes in from anywhere.
And you gained a little experience from the work that you've done previous.
Yes, with Bob and my other shows.
Some new thoughts about what you wanted?
Well, I had, obviously, with the experience I'd had with my other shows and looking at agreements, lawyers' agreements and stuff, I kind of had a bit of an idea of what to look for. Okay. So the important thing, what I was going to say was, as a creator, the things to look for are, you want to sell your show. It sounds weird that you're giving away 100% of your idea, but that's the only way you're going to get it made, because you have to, okay. In part of the agreement, you're going to get consulting fees. You're going to get rights fees per episode. That's really important. That might be the only money you make on this concept. You are then going to get the all-important back-end profit participation. Now that's the bit that you're going to make any decent money on the concept. I know that toy inventors do separate deals with companies, with the toy companies, where they get a royalty per toy sold on shelf. That's a separate royalty. But as a creator, you can also get a royalty for assigning your rights to them 100%, as I say, in exchange for consulting fees, rights fees, and back-end profit participation. Now the back-end profit only kicks in when it is in profit, net profit, after they've paid for all production costs, anything associated with the show. So that comes off first. And then, of course, when they're into real profit, then you get your percentage, and that can range from all sorts. You know, if you're a beginner, they'll probably try and get you much lower. If you're somebody like me who's got some track record, I can negotiate probably a slightly better deal. But you know, everybody's different. Every deal is different I've ever done. Sometimes you get a company willing to offer more. Other companies are really tight and they're just not prepared to go. So you have to make that decision. Do you want to go with that company or not? Do you want to get that show made? But if somebody's showing an interest in it and getting it made, that's the first step on this journey. And it's a long journey, you know, to get something to
All right,
become
let's
a
talk
big.
about that for just a minute. Let's talk about your work ethic.
Mhm.
How often, I mean, how much do you work? I mean, your set, your brands are everywhere. How much do you work today? Do you work a lot? Maybe
I work every day. I create stuff every day. I've got about 15 projects on the go right now, range, as I say, from preschool right through to movies, full-length animated movies I'm working on, and novels, and you know, all sorts of stuff. So I kind of basically try to spin all these plates, and I keep them all going with these different people, and I jump on Zoom calls, and I get sent scripts, I get sent designs, and I kind of make my comments and send it back. But because I'm sort of dipping in and out of various of them, I'm not so swamped that I'm not totally on every aspect of the production. Do you know what I mean? They've got loads of people doing that. So they during the development period is the bit that they really use me for, to get it to a green light. Once it's green lit, I stay on board for the first series, usually 52 episodes, which I did on Paw Patrol. And my second one was Spin Master, which was Mighty Express, which is currently on Netflix, which again you can see on YouTube. So I kind of stay on board up to the end of maybe series 1, and then, to be honest, then you're a bit of a liability, because they have so many people making comments on scripts, and directors, and Netflix, or whatever, whoever's involved, you know, Nickelodeon, Guru Studios, you know, the producers, script writers, that you're really not needed. It's kind of set in motion. You know, the story arc is there. You can run a million different storylines.
You don't like, Keith? What do you do? Can you say anything about it, or you have to be kind of?
No, well, this is the problem when you do assign rights and you lose control, and that Bob the Builder is a good case in point. When, you know, Mattel picked up Bob, they actually ran with that without coming to me. Didn't really give me any indication of what they're going to do with it. And they practically, as I say, they kind of have spoiled a great brand. It needs to go back to square one, really, in my view. But anyway, you know, that's part of it. You have to. You just have to do that to get your first show away, and I've done that with several shows. I've given it away, and in exchange for, you know, those royalties. And to be fair, if you do get a breakout hit, those royalties can keep you in a very good life, and that's how I managed to live here in Monaco. That's based on the Paw Patrol income.
What about Rejection? About Rejection? What about, you know, your story is so interesting because you've had some success, but you've had some failures too. How do you overcome failure or rejection, or how do you get back up?
Well, if I can't sell a show, I don't see it as failure. I see that as, okay, you either haven't found the right person for it, the right broadcaster, or it's the wrong time. You know, I kind of put them away and then dust them off again in a few years and refresh it and take it back out. There's some things that are right in development right now, in production right now, with Wild Brain and big Chinese companies that are currently producing one of my shows that created years ago, and went through many different looks, being optioned by different people, but didn't quite manage to get it to the right place. And that has now completely been revamped, and it's looking fantastic. And that's very current. It's basically Top Gun for preschoolers. It's the timing is just couldn't be better. With Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise could be in the show. He's the right size. He could be in one of my little jets. He'd be perfect. But something like that right now. So timing is a lot to do with it.
But do you ever get down, and do you ever want to give up? Have you ever felt, hey, I just want to give up and do something else? Or how do you keep going?
Well, as I say, I've kind of branched out into other areas, like I've got my first animated feature currently in production, which should be finished by October, November this year, which is a big environmental themed movie about a young orangutan female who's going to save her rainforest world from destruction through deforestation. So it's very current, it's very moving, it's quite powerful. It's all being animated out of Micros Studios in Paris, so they've done beautiful artwork, and all the main animation and rendering, all that is being done in India through the Technicolor studios in India. So that's going to be a wonderful thing, and that's going to be probably launched, I would say, next Easter, maybe at the earliest. We've got to find a distributor for that, because we're producing. I've stayed on board that one as a producer. That's what I meant to say. Yeah. So some projects I do stay on board with, and I stay on as a producer and a creator. So, but when you do that, you are then kind of responsible for going out and finding the money and the investors. So it becomes a much bigger thing. You have more responsibility. Okay.
Do you still use a sketchpad? I mean, what do you use? A computer now, or what do you use?
Yeah, so I use my computer for writing, my laptop, my Apple, and then I've got my pads. If I then want to do some sketches or drawings, okay, I'll jump onto my pads and do some drawings. Sometimes I send those on to illustrators to work up. I'll give them a really close brief and how I'm seeing it, how I'm creating it.
What would you say for someone that's just starting out? Courtney, you had a great question. Would you please ask that?
Yeah, so we have a fair amount of our audience members have various characters and designs that they would love to, get to market, whether it's, a cartoon or if it's a toy. For someone who's just starting out and has this twinkle in their eye of this character that they think could be a next hit, what do you believe the first step is? What would you recommend that person to first do with that character?
Well, I think if they're seeing it as a TV show, then they need to write a Bible. They need to write the world, the character, what happens, what's the idea, how do characters interact, some half a dozen storylines, and just create it, organically. Does it work? Try it on kids, tell them the stories. Sometimes writing a children's book is a good way. You can take a book to a publisher and get something published and get success that way. And then based on that success, you can get production companies interested when you have a successful range of books. That's probably a quicker way to market, going the publishing route. And also, I would say you have a stronger hand when you go and do your deal with the production companies these days, because of course you've got the books, you show them on the table, and you've got real sales, and you've got a stronger hand on your negotiating for back end. Or it's good to get an agent. I mean, at that stage, you really want to get yourself an agent. I know that in America they do it slightly differently and have lawyers representing them, whereas in the UK we probably more go along the literary agent or entertainment type agent. So you could go that route, or you could pitch it directly to the production companies, as I had done, and hope that there's something unique. Keep looking at your ideas and keep asking yourself, and you have to be honest with yourself. You know, how can I improve this? Is this actually interesting? Is this going to interest a child? Is that going to keep their attention? Is that character really lovable? Where's the heart? I always say this, you know, you've got to put heart into a show. It can't just be a show about selling vehicles or stuff. There's been lots of shows about vehicles that haven't actually worked. You've got to have heart in the show. Kids have got to love your character, really care for them. And you've got to have those little emotional moments in the show. All my stuff has had that. So keep trying to improve it. Never be satisfied with what you've got. Always look for a more original way of doing it. You know, it could be something that has been done before, but try and give it a different twist. So you're pitching something that hasn't been done, because broadcasters get pitched so many thousands of different shows. They've seen everything. They've seen every type of show, from vets to doctors to, you know, builders to all sorts, nurses, zoos, jungles. So you've got to make yours slightly different. I'll give you a good example. I've got a show right now, which actually was just launched. There was a press release just recently, so I can mention it. I've just hooked up with a company who picked one of my ideas up, and I just started thinking to myself, right, I really want to do a show about football, soccer. You know, it's the biggest sport in the world. Nobody seems to have done it, but I want to give it a different spin, because I'm sure somebody's done some soccer shows somewhere. I'm sure I saw one in France, French animation. But I don't really want to just have a show about football matches. That's a bit boring. How can I make it funny and different for preschoolers? So I thought, right, well, what about if I mix pirates with them? What about if you had a pirate team on a boat that sailed around the world, playing lots of other pirate teams, and at the press of a button, their boat turns into a football pitch, and then you have all these crazy piratey adventures, but you have football as well. So that kind of really appealed to me. So that's something we're currently developing right now, and we'll be pitching that at MIPCOM, which is the big TV festival in Cannes in October, and see if we can get that one away. So what I'm trying to say is, find something but give it a twist. Look for something original.
You guys, we're coming up on the hour, and I want to be very respectful of Keith's time. And maybe we have time for a couple questions. Courtney, maybe you could help with that.
We have a lot of really, really good questions that I cannot wait to get to. We have one question here from Nicole. Her question is, how do you find the company/studio that you'll know would be interested?
Well, I think that you have to do some research. You have to watch a lot of children's TV, or read a lot of children's books to find the right publisher if you're going that route. Find something that you really like, style-wise and humor-wise, and you're thinking to yourself, actually, you know, I like that my show could kind of be like that. And just take a note of the production company that makes it on the credits at the end, and look into them and find out what the process is of submitting stuff, because they'll all have submission departments, because they're all looking for the next big thing. But just cover yourself with, as I say, you know, either go through an agent, or if you are sending it in yourself, copy somebody in so that you've got witnesses to it being sent in, and you know, try and get some feedback from them. So there's history of it being sent in. Well, first of all, maybe a preliminary letter to find out you've got something you want to send. What's the process? Who do you send it to? And do it. And maybe there's some companies have official, you know, documents that you have to sign before you send it in. I think they're just covering themselves in case they have something in development that's similar. And there's always, you know, there's been in the past people sending stuff in, and then they see a show come out a couple of years later, which is their same theme as their thing they sent in. And then of course they get all upset and think, oh, well, they've nicked my idea. But actually you haven't. They were probably in development or production of that show 2 years before you sent your stuff in. It's just part of the nature of this business. There are, you know, only so many sort of ideas that you know you can really kind of touch on for kids, and there's bound to be thousands of people around the world thinking of a show along those same lines. So, you know, just cover yourself as best you can, and then send it in, and you know, good ideas will get noticed. So you just got to keep going. If you get a you know, knockback, sorry, not for us, it doesn't mean the show is not good. It means that they might have something similar, or they might be looking for a girls show, for instance. And because everything's so expensive production wise to make, they're only going to make one or two and get involved. So you just have to time it I go back to that timing. It's determination, not giving up, and just getting a bit of luck. You need a bit of luck, but you make your own luck.
When it comes back to the pitch, we have a lot of questions in relation to IP, protecting your character, your idea, the story. Do you do anything in relation to copyrights or trademarks or any form of IP for your character before you pitch?
Well, nowadays I've never known a company that have you know, that ripped somebody off in this business. The kids business is pretty honest. But it's always good to you know, safeguard yourself, as I say, with either sending it in through an agent if you can get somebody to represent you, and that's then, you know, all done anyway because it's all on email trail. But you can kind of copyright stuff and spend some money. You know, you could take out the .com name of it for relatively small amount of money just to own it in case they do go with the same name, and you've got that. But you know, essentially at the end of the day, you're just going to have to at some stage trust someone.
Thank you for saying. Okay.
You have to let go and trust someone somewhere, otherwise you're never going to get it made. But you just try and cover yourself as best you can.
Okay.
I think that's all I can say.
We have a couple questions I would love to get to, two in particular that we're getting a lot of questions about just within the chat here. Desiree says it pretty clearly here that what if you have a lovely character idea, but you are not an artist, you cannot draw it, it's more of a concept, but how it fully looks, it's not sussed out. Do you hire an artist, or what do you do at that point?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, so this happens a lot. So if you can't do any of those things, but you've got an idea for something, you're going to have to pay somebody to do it. You don't really want to have to bring someone in, a friend, and say, look, if you draw that up for me or write that up for me, I'll give you half the IP. Some people do that. I have done that on where I need a studio coming on board to put in, say, $200,000 to turn my show into a full pitch with Bible and drawings and scripts and animation trailers. I've done that because then I know that's another one that I could probably try and get away, but on that one I'm going to go 50-50 with that studio. But I think if you're trying to sell something in yourself on your first show, I kind of try and resist giving anything away if you can. Try and pay for it if you can do that. The other thing is, of course, don't promise too much to somebody, because you know, you could have something drawn up in your pitch by an artist and pitch it into a production company, and they might option it, but they might not want to use that artwork. They might want to use their own studios and their own designs and start from scratch, or they might want to use their own script writers. So whoever you've partnered with and promised stuff, it's not possible to do, so that, you've lost them along the way. So I think the best thing to do is keep it clean, own it, and just pay for some stuff to be done.
We're right up
If
on
you
the hour,
can't do it.
Courtney.
Well, yeah, I'm prepared to carry on if we have.
Yeah. Okay. Good. All right. Good. I just want to make sure, because this information, peeling back the curtain a little bit, Keith, is so important, because we just don't know really what to do. And I know a lot of creative people are a little frustrated with the process. Now, I want to ask you one thing. When you keep on referring to the Bible, what does that mean? What does that look like? Is that a style guide? What is that?
Well, it's like a sort of a document, which is basically the concept, which explains the world and pulls you into it like a story, and then you describe the characters, you describe the locations, you describe the bad guys, the good guys. You then write a few storylines, no more than half a page each, and at least maybe half a dozen of those. And then you just flesh it out, and you maybe put some drawings in, and just make it as sexy as you can make it. Some people have those skills, those sort of media skills. They've been trained to do that better than others, or you might know somebody who can help you with that, and who can design it and make a nice logo for you or something to help it a little bit more professional.
I've seen a few style guides for like a movie launch.
Well, the style guides are very different. So the style guides are very expensive things, which really only happen once you've got your show up and running. You've got your green light. I mean, we've employed, there are specialist agencies that do style guides, and they do a ton of artwork, and it's all beautifully done, and it's got Pantone colors.
Yes.
And they put the vehicles in there, and it's like, then they apply it to patterns and whatever that they're going to use on packaging, and so they do a whole range of stuff, and it can be very expensive.
So you don't need,
but that's not something you really should be doing, certainly not out of your own money at this stage. That comes down the line, and a production company will pay that. That's part of them optioning your concept. There's another way of kind of doing it. If you think about brands like Hello Kitty, which was a Japanese brand that's been out decades. I can't remember the year it came out, but it's done huge amount, billions and billions of dollars of merchandising. And really, it's just imagery. It's just nice outline, very simple, of this kitten, and it's applied to all sorts of merchandise. As far as I know, there's no TV support. It's just a graphic. And there are some brands like that. Some brands just have graphics in some way, and they make a really big success on the merchandising.
How important is for you to know the landscape? Like you said, it seems like you know what's going on. You watch the other shows, you read the books. I mean, you really know what's going on broadly, don't you? Or...
Well, I know broadly, but I'm not brilliant. I'm hopeless. I'm a bit of a dinosaur. I have no social platforms. I'm not on Twitter or any of these. Facebook. I don't have any followers. I don't follow anyone. I just do my own thing, and but all my sons are all in, all my friends, they're all crazy about all that stuff, and they've got thousands of followers, and I wouldn't have a clue. But that doesn't really bother me, because I wouldn't have the time to do it all, to be honest. I just do what I do. I just concentrate on this, and then that all comes naturally anyway when you get a big company on board, because they do all that. Paw Patrol is on everything, but I mean, I certainly didn't suggest where it should go, apart from the main obvious ones, TV, film, and YouTube probably. And so they've completely, they understand every aspect of that sort of media reach.
What else do you have, Courtney? Is there some other ones in there?
Yeah, I have someone here named Alice. She says, "Hi Keith, when coming up with a lot of ideas, how do you know which ones to go after and push? And how do you get past the naysayers?"
Okay, so you're always going to get people who say, "Oh, yeah, I don't think you're going to get anywhere with that. You might as well give up." I've had that lots of times, and I just completely ignore them and just think, well, I think this is going to do something. I believe in it. So you just believe in yourself. Keep listening to your inner voice, and don't listen to any negativity. Negative people just don't really get anywhere, because nothing is possible to them. Whereas just hang out with positive people who think you can do anything, and dream it, and it will happen. But you have to put the graft in. You have to work. And if you've got say a job, a 9-to-5 job, because you need the money coming in, then you just have to sit up late at night and do it weekends the way I did it. It's the only way to crack it at the end of the day. I know there are a lot of toy designers on the call, so you are in the business and you are probably designing toys anyway, so you kind of have a bit of a head start. And as I say, if you come up with a great idea for a toy concept, that could be the crux, that could be the thing that makes the show. That's the key thought for the show. And all you got to do is just come up with the characters to sort of build around that toy concept, and as I say, give it heart, try and make some sort of story out of it, and then suddenly you've got a really cool show.
We have a question here. We ironically have a lot of screenwriters in the audience, and so we're getting a lot of those questions as well. And so what I would maybe find interesting too, Leo asked a question here. Do you have any advice particularly for a screenwriter with a penchant for children's media?
Yeah, so screenwriters are, I've obviously used many writers, and you can tell the really good ones. You can read, there's great script writers and not so good ones, and the really good ones they just make the page come alive, and they just great at humor, great at action. They skip along. They've just got a brilliant way with words. So I think really with that, I'm not sure the best way in for a scriptwriter, but it would be sending in some sample scripts to the head writer of a particular show. All shows usually have a showrunner or a head writer. Find out who that person is. Send a really nice note saying, look, you're trying to break into the business. You've written a couple of sample scripts. Is there somebody that could read these and give me some feedback? And usually it's going to be a process of, because you're brand new, you've written something. Maybe ask them for some sample scripts to read. That's a good way of learning the shorthand of writing great scripts, because the more you read those scripts, the better you'll become, because you can see where you're going wrong, and the way that these really good writers can get over action or comedy, or and make it work. So script writing, yeah, for preschool, for any TV, again is different from movie script writing, and I'm only learning movie script writing now on this new project that I'm doing, which is a whole new ball game. It's like massive undertaking. It's about a year to write a great script, because I think this guy wrote about 12 drafts for this movie, but it's unbelievable script that we finally got, this polished diamond of a script. Every single word is has been literally, you know, honed. It's so good, but they're very different. They're very different. But this guy actually came from a TV background, so, and he wanted to write movies. That was his ambition. So he did that. He learned the trade of how to write scripts. He wrote lots of scripts, read lots of movie scripts, and how to get into that world, because it is, as I say, is a different discipline from TV 10-minute episodes for preschool.
Great. Yeah, thank you for that. Ben, would you like to ask a question here, my man?
Hi, Ben.
Hey, actually, Keith, I want to thank you so much for your time. I don't have a question. I need a favor. If you can do something for me really quick. I have to go. I'm so mad about it, but I literally have to leave right now to drive a foster dog to what may be his new family. And I think a well wish from the Paw Patrol guy might make me a shoe-in.
What's his name?
His name's Bandit. He's barking
Bandit,
in the
what a
back
brilliant
of him.
name.
He's a Great Pyrenees St. Bernard mix, and we've had him in a Class A RV with us for 7 months trying to find him a family. So we're leaving right now. I gotta go.
God. Bandit is brilliant. I mean, there's a show right there. So
Pretty much.
Somebody should write a show about Bandit. I love that.
Hey, Bandit in the RV. You already got your show.
Bandit is just this dog who drives around in RV. He just drives around and has adventures, meeting lots of other characters. I love that. It's brilliant.
Hey, thank you so much for doing this. This has been amazing.
Thank you.
Big fan of all of your work. Sorry, I've got to run, guys.
Okay.
Thanks. I don't want to waste everybody's time, but thank you so much.
Cheers. Thank you. Take care.
We're coming to the end. If you could write your thank you notes, we would appreciate that very, very much. And what's really amazing, Keith, we have people all over the world today, which is really wonderful to see. And I know different time zones. I know it's late for you where you are. But I just want to thank everyone that's come today.
Yeah, thank you all, guys. It's been really good, actually. It's good for me. You know, I get a few things, but not quite like this. But it's really important for me to give something back. You know, I've been lucky. I've had my breaks, and one or two of you guys are gonna have that same lucky break. So if you do, you should let us know. You should.
Well, you know what's really amazing, Keith? I was doing some homework, and I kept on thinking, why is Keith spending time with us? And then I read something where you wrote that it's really important for you to give back. So I cannot thank you enough for being so giving.
Thank you, Stephen. Yeah,
no,
it's important. It's important. You know, I was an unknown once with my first show, and Peter Orton at Hit gave me that opportunity. You know, he saw something and he took it on board, and he was a big multimillionaire, very successful businessman. I was.
Courtney, should we do our pictures? Is it?
Yeah, absolutely.
We always do a family photo here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, let's do a family photo, and then I'll unmute you guys too for a quick round of applause. But let's all smile and wave at the camera, and we'll do a family photo here. 1, 2, 3. All right, we're gonna do the next page here.
There's a lot of pages here, Keith.
1, 2, 3.
Yeah, you've got a lot of
going.
people.
Keep smiling, everyone.
Oh, 99 plus. Yeah, cool.
Currently we've got 223 people on with us.
Oh my God, that's
I
cool.
think we were right under 300 today.
We were, yeah. Perfect. Okay, we're good with the images now. Now I'm gonna have everyone give a wonderful round of applause for Keith. I'm gonna unmute everyone for about 10 seconds to give a wonderful, warm, welcoming thanks for Keith here. 1,
Thank you, guys.
2, 3. All right, you guys can unmute yourselves and give a round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Keith.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, I'm going to unmute you guys here for a second. Thank you guys so much for giving that round of applause. We really appreciate it. Stephen and Keith, do you guys have any last words you'd like to give?
Yeah, I just want to say, Keith, what an honor. And thank you, Billy at Mojo Nation, for making that introduction. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. It's been a real pleasure. And I really sincerely hope that you know, somebody comes through with something amazing. Just have to keep dreaming it, and it dreams come true. They do.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Everybody.
Stephen, real quickly before we go, do you want to talk about the leaders page
Yeah,
here?
please, real quick, put the last slide up. I just want to thank all the inventing groups out there in the world, and also these people here. We have George, and we have the Orange County, and Don, and Leo, and Chris, and Joe. Thank you for getting the word out about this great event. I appreciate all the help. And please join your local inventors group. They'll help you become successful. Thank you, Courtney.
Wonderful. All right. Thank you very much, Keith. We super appreciate you coming
Courtney.
here for our meeting. Thank you everyone for coming to this special event at this very special time for Inventors Online. Hopefully we guys see you in our very next meeting next month, where we can bring you more expert information in the areas you guys need help in. Have a wonderful evening, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Take care.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Cheers, guys. All the best.